really long anticipated on my behalf. First of all, there was a big UI upgrade, which I will show first. Let me just go to Lens Studio. It started with an empty project, and if you look on the left side here, there used to be only resources, and now there's also a scene config. We'll get to this later. This is something to do with what the user is seeing before they're recording and what they see after they have recorded a video. I think the biggest change is on the right side in the preview panel. You will have some new videos here, which is the body. This is an image actually. The hand. There's cats and dogs in there. But this one is really useful. If you go to the lower part of the preview panel, you can select device simulation. So if you want to make sure your frame or whatever you're using in your effect really aligns well with the edges of every device, you can just select the iPhone X, for example, and you can see the notch, everything. It has all the right aspect ratios. So iPhone 5S, the same, and even for desktop. So if you're building something for Snap Camera, for Twitch, for example, this will be really useful for you. Let's set it to iPhone 8 for now. And then on the left side, you have some more UI settings, which is the capture mode. So it changes the UI mode here and showing the sponsored UI. So this is really useful because I used manual overlays always to check if it didn't really overlay the sponsored slug or the call to action or where the logo is placed. So this was a really useful feature for me, at least. And then on the left top, right next to project info, you will see a file size indicator. And the file size indicator, it tells you the current size of the lens. It tells you if it's awesome or not. It tells you, like, I think 1 to 2 megabytes is awesome. And then the more megabytes you add, the more download size it's going to be. So the more data it's going to cost for everyone to use it. There's also a handy link for optimizing the performance, which will tell you various ways to reduce the lens size and increase the frames per second. And then if you publish a lens, so let's add something real quick to our project, particles, there you go. If we publish our lens, we now have an option to add a lens preview over here. We used to have the option somewhere later in the submittal process, but now if we tap Add Lens Preview, we can generate a preview from the models that were pre-recorded. So this is really useful if you don't want to have your own face show up all the time in your lens previews. You can just add this one, for example, and they have all the right triggers. So there's idle, there's open mouth, there's smile, there's everything with cats and dogs, with the landmarks. So you can just use these as lens preview settings or lens previews for your project. And then the next big upgrade was the color filters and the video effects. So these were previously called post effects, but now the post effects have been renamed to color correction. And the color correction is still, it still has the same settings as it used to have. Let's just remove our particles here. So there's nothing really new about this, but it's just, it has a new name and it has a new location. You can adjust the alpha, and you really can adjust any more parameters. But the current post effects, which are more like video effects, I think, let's just move our old one first. Here we go. So if we add analog TV, for example, you will see that a post effect is added. It has a material, and this one has a normal texture and scanlines texture. And if we go to the material over here, analog TV, you will see some more options. And here the noise color, there's no noise to be seen right now, so let's just increase the noise intensity. we go. You can see a little. We can choose a noise color. We can make it black. We can make it full white. So these are really handy parameters just to tweak your video effects. And I really like the fact that these video effects are now built into Lens Studio, because I, for one, always try to replicate the VHS video effect. So this was really just, it takes a matter of minutes before you have a cool VHS effect set up right now. You can adjust the chromatic aberration, so the RGB split. You can intensify the distortion, like a real old school TV. But the most handy part of this new function is if you hover over these parameters, you will see the property names. So this one is called noise intensity. This one is called noise color, distortion, and so forth. What you can do with these is, let's just add another right now. Let's do halftone. If you go to the material halftone, you will see this one has only 3 parameters, so the color 1, the color 2, and halftone size. For color 2, let's pick something purple, and for color 2, let's pick something a little more red, like that. Now we can adjust this slider manually, the halftone size, but if we look at the property name, this one is called halftone num. And if I have a small code snippet I can use for this. So if we add a new script, and this script, all it does is really, it just lets you input the right material, so which is halftone in our case here on the left side. And then it tells you from this material we want to adjust the parameter halftone num. We want to put it to 10 programmatically, for example. So let's create a new scene object and apply this script. Then we pick the right material here, which is halftone. And then in the script we can adjust our halftone settings. So let's say 50, and you'll see it change right away. I believe this one can go up to 100. And there we go. So this can be done for any parameter you can add with the post effect. So let's take VHS, for example. Let's remove our halftone. Let's go to the material. And this one has way more parameters, which you can tweak programmatically also. So all you have to do is check here, check the property name, which is band interval in this case, and you can just add it in your script and edit it. So that's video effects. And now a feature I have been long awaiting is hand tracking and body tracking. These are 2 examples of hand tracking. I really think hand tracking and body tracking allows you to add more, like make your filters more immersive. I've had a couple of projects right now which have used some form of body tracking, which relied purely on the face. So, like if you make someone wear a bow tie, it's really hard to get it straight. With body tracking, that becomes way easier. So let's just set up some hand tracking right now. We go to object tracking, and then you will see cat tracking, dog tracking, hand tracking, and body tracking. We'll pick hand tracking for now. Then you'll already see that the basic sprite is already overlaid and it already works in the preview panel. But we're going to select a different picture, which is the eye. And now hand tracking and I think the other cat and dog tracking don't allow you yet to have 3D models react to the hands or to the cat's or dog's face, but they do allow you to import 2D still images or 2D animations and connect those to either the dog head, cat head, or the hand. So you can make all kinds of fun effects. I really hope they're going to add 3D objects to this soon, because I really love playing around with hand tracking and adding some special features, like being able to control something with your hand, opening and closing it. If you're going to build something, some effect with hand tracking, I can really recommend starting from the template, because if you open the hand template in Lens Studio 2.0, you will see there's already a script there, which is called hand tracking controller. And the hand tracking controller allows you to adjust the size of the sprite that you're using. So what I just showed you, adding the image, looks like this. And with the script, you programmatically pick the texture that is going to display on the hand. You can programmatically change the size. You can offset it on the x-axis or the y-axis. You can rotate the image. And you can adjust the alpha. You can make it a little smoother as well. And you can go into advanced settings. But what this script allows you to do is it detects if the hand is open or not. And that is some functionality that is, I think it's not really supported yet. There's not really a lot of documentation on the Lens Studio website yet. But this script allows you to have objects react to that. Oh, right, the body tracking. Let's open the body tracking too, real quick. Let's get a preview video with the body. There we go. Maybe we can pick this one too. Yeah. So body tracking is not really body tracking, but more torso tracking. So you can attach images to the center of the body, the left shoulder or the right shoulder. So it's really just the upper torso, I would say. There's not really arm tracking yet, no leg tracking, no feet tracking. So it's not body tracking, but it's more like torso tracking. And this one, again, uses images, so no 3D models yet, but you can definitely work with 2D images and animations in the body tracking template. And again, with the body tracking, I would advise to start with the template, because it already has the entire scene set up. It will allow you to tweak the images, of course. And this script is similar to the hand tracking controller because it allows you to programmatically change the settings. This one, I mean, sorry. So you can, again, change the size of the middle one, the left one, the right one, the offset, the rotation, and the alpha. Dynamic data is also a cool new addition to Lens Studio 2.0. Let's start over with a new project. And if you go to Add New, then select, let's go for screen text for now. You'll see that it already adds text to the screen, to the center of the screen. There's a bunch of settings here which allow you to transform the text object. This was a bit overwhelming for me because it has different pinning options, different scaling options, options to set the bounce, to set the pivot, to set the rotation. And I can really understand if this is like a little overwhelming at first. If you would like to use the old transform controls, you can go to Advanced. and then to basic transform. And this has all the settings that you used to work with in Lens Studio, and everything below Lens Studio 2.0. There's also, if you really want to go back to the old billboards, because they were called billboards first, they're over here, the legacy sprite, the legacy billboard, and the legacy face sprite. I would advise not to use these because they're going to be deprecated soon, but you can definitely just open these, and they will work for a while. They will probably work for a few versions, and these have all the old transform settings, the old fill modes, the pivot presets. So yeah, if it's like too big a step for you, then just go with the sprite objects first. Back to the text object. If you go to dynamic text below here, you can tap insert, and you'll have a range of options. You're able to select altitude, birth date, city, and all kinds of cool information. The display name, for example. Let's just remove the text here. Display name now says Snap user, but this will take over the Snapchat username of the person using it. So you can use this for a high score screen, for example. And then you have a short date, which is, like it said, the short version of a date. There's a longer version of it. There's temperature, there's all kinds of cool information. And I think the biggest one is the date and the display name, because those really weren't available before, and the birth date as well. So this will change to the birth date of the user every time. There's some more settings in the text object, which is font size, custom font, there's vertical alignment. Let's just put in some text here. Vertical alignment allows you to align the object vertically, and it will stick to the bounds of this object. So if I put it to the top now, you'll see it goes to the top of this object. So let's just make that full screen. There we go. Then there's horizontal alignment, which is just the basic alignment, left, center, or right. Then there's vertical overflow, which has overflow and truncate as an option. And there's horizontal overflow, which allows you to select overflow, truncate, or wrap. And these settings, they apply to how the text is wrapped around in the text object. So if we fill this with text, you'll see it automatically allows for more space, and it will center vertically as well as horizontally. It will never flow outside of the screen. But if we pick truncate here, for example, it will go outside of the screen vertically. We need to add a lot of text for that. And if you, let's set this back, and if you select overflow here, you'll see that the entire object just overflows, and it will never stick to the bounds of the screen. And truncate, it will just cut it off right there. So those are a few new different options. And I believe color, outline, drop shadow were also available in previous versions. Then there's live versus capture, and this has to do with what I mentioned before, the scene config that you can see here. You can see the capture target, which is now the render target, and the live target, which is also the render target. But if we create another camera, let's see, and we make a new render target, which we will call record. There we go. So now we have one camera, which is a render target, and one camera which is record. So Now we can select a different render target because we have two. So if we select the record as a capture target, it will only show what is in this camera right now. And there's nothing in there, of course. There's no lights. Let's see. We switch them around. And what it allows you to do is you can make a user see something while they're playing with the lens, which is the live target, and once they start capturing, they will see the capture target. So this allows you to add some logos to the screen you don't want the user to see while they're recording. It allows you to create a UI for the user, like buttons to tap, and you can turn those off by selecting a different capture target. So the UI will show up in the live target. This will be the live target is what the user is playing with while they're not recording with the lens, and the capture target is what the user will see after they have created a recording, which you can also see by changing the capture mode. So this will change the output camera here. Then there's landmark tracking, and this is a cool example of Snapchat, which they've done for Game of Thrones on the cast iron building. And you can see that let's just pause it right there. You can see that the dragon is occluded by the building, so it really goes behind the building. You can see that the snow really sticks to the shape, the 3D shape of the building. And you can see like the tail is really waving behind the building. So there's a couple of buildings you can do this in. There's another one. That's a really short one. Well, we'll just open up an example. Let's go for the Eiffel Tower for now. So you see a bunch of different objects in this lens project. It's obviously searching for the Eiffel Tower, so let's just select the Eiffel Tower video. There we go. You can see it has some animations pinned to the actual Eiffel Tower. So this is a 3D model of the Eiffel Tower. And this is the occluder of the tower. So if we were to open up an entirely new project, and we would want to build something for the Eiffel Tower, let's go to location tracking, because that's where this is located, and go for Eiffel Tower. And it will look like nothing has been added to the screen, but if you zoom out, or zoom in this case, I'm not sure where it's gone. There we go. It automatically adds a 3D model of the landmark you are building something for. So this can really be useful for using it as an occluder. If you go back to the video of the Game of Thrones example, you can't see it right now, but there's a 3D model of the cast iron building, which is occluding the dragon, which is just the same principle as this. So this allows you to add any kind of effect to the Eiffel Tower, which is awesome. I really hope there's more locations coming soon, because the Eiffel Tower is pretty far away, let alone the cast iron building. At least for me, that is. And then there's path tracking. And path tracking allows you to build effects for yourself and your dog or cat, which is cool. You can add all kinds of effects. Let's open up a new project. And let's add object tracking, and let's go for dog tracking right now. We're actually going to build a lens right now. I have some assets ready. Let's import them. I have, let's see, whiskers and cat ears. What I'm going to be building is a lens that detects dogs, and once it detects a dog, it will turn it into a cat. So let's call this one the ears. And let's select our cat ears. Let's call this one, whoa, our whiskers. And let's select the whiskers. So this allows you to quickly add some 3D models to your cat or dog. Let's select a preview video with the dog, and there you can see it already works. The reason I went for one side of the whiskers now is because in the image I used, in the asset I used, they were too far apart. So what I'm going to do is call this one whiskers left and whiskers right. And what this will allow you to do is this is the original whisker and this is the right whisker. But it needs to be flipped, of course, which you can do over here. You can flip it this side or the other side. We'll go for this, get it a little closer. And there we go. I think it looks cool. I really wish we could add 3D models to these cats and dogs as well. I tried to import some 3D ears, but they were a little glitchy, so I decided just to go with the 2D version. And then I just realized I forgot to add this to my presentation, which is the image. I already briefly talked about it, but I want to go back to it real quick. If you are looking for the sprite or the billboard, they are now called image and screen image. I already mentioned the image briefly and the difference between the sprite and the billboard, but I didn't mention the screen image yet. So let's just pick an image, doesn't really matter, let's pick this one. So there's a bunch of new settings. I'm just gonna go briefly over these overwhelming settings. Pinning it to the edge allows you to pin an image or the rectangle the image is in to the edge of the screen. So if I would pin it to the left side, it would pin this distance and it would always keep this distance, which is really useful. You can also do it on this side, and now you know that it will always stay in the center. If, for example, let's just imagine our cat ears are a logo, which we would want to add on this right side, then we could do it like this, and we would pin it to the top and to the right. So if we switch simulation on devices, you'll see that we'll stick to the right side right now. Let's turn these off. The fixed size has to do with the scaling of the image object. So if you fix this size, it will never scale in this way. And same goes for this one. And the fixing in size is really done when you're switching device orientations. It can scale a little. It doesn't always scale, but especially when you're using full screen effects, these settings are really useful. Because you would want the object to scale and maybe fill or fit the screen depending on what you're going for. So the new pivot positions, there we go. You can see that you can select a pivot point on the image. So if you put it here, and the pivot point will be at the bottom left. I haven't really figured out in depth what these will do, but I imagine they will pivot your image if you rotate it or if you offset it from the image anchor. It will act like an anchor, I think, like in Photoshop. And same with the text object. Let's turn this off. Same with the text object, you will have vertical alignment and horizontal alignment. So this will set it to the top, bottom, or center on the vertical side of the rectangle of your image. And this will set it to the horizontal alignment, but our image fits automatically, so let's set it to, let's see. So if we set it to fill and we switch these options, you will now see it turn around. So there we go. That is the rundown.
If we didn't try it out, but 1 second, I need to chase the dog down because she's running away. Come here. She's literally running away from me. Come here. I guess this is why you should never work with animals. Come here. She's literally like running away. Yes,